The spaceport on Leora Prime was busy with sounds and movement. Traders shouted about their goods. Ships landed with fire in the sky, and strange smells from alien food filled the air. Among this crowd was a human family, visiting the planet for a trade meeting with local merchants. Their young child, Ethan, was curious about everything. His small eyes followed every glowing sign and every alien face. For a moment, when his parents turned to speak with a merchant, Ethan wandered away. He followed a colorful bird-like machine flying overhead, laughing softly to himself. In just a few steps, he was lost in the maze of stalls and tunnels. At first, Ethan thought it was only a small adventure. He tried to retrace his steps, but the faces were unfamiliar and the voices sounded strange. The air felt heavier as he walked deeper into a darker part of the port. That was when he noticed them. 3 alien raiders, tall and sharp-looking, with scales that reflected the dim lights, noticed the child. Their eyes glowed with interest, not kindness. One of them leaned down, hissing words in a tongue Ethan did not understand. Another reached for his arm. Ethan backed away, heart beating fast. Fear made his small body tremble. He wanted to cry out for his parents, but his voice stuck in his throat. The raiders laughed at his silence. To them, he was not a child, just a bargaining piece, a way to pressure humans or sell a ransom. But before they could grab him, something unexpected happened. From a side passage, a group of small beings hurried forward. They were the Cerealans, a species most traders ignored. They were not tall, not strong, and not armed. Their skin glowed faintly in soft colors, and their large eyes carried gentleness. Many called them fragile, even weak. Yet now they stepped in front of Ethan, forming a barrier with their bodies. The raiders growled in surprise. "Move aside," one barked, his voice harsh. But the Cerealans did not move. They stood shoulder to shoulder, their thin arms raised in a silent message. "You shall not take this child." Ethan looked at them with wide eyes. They were strangers, yet they stood like guardians. One of them, a Cerealan elder with silver patterns across his skin, bent slightly to Ethan's level. His voice was calm, soft like water flowing over stone. "Do not fear, little one. You are safe." The raiders stepped closer, trying to intimidate the Cerealans. They hissed, mocked, and waved sharp weapons. Everyone in the port knew the Cerealans could not fight. Yet none of them moved aside. Their bodies trembled, but their feet held firm. Ethan, standing behind them, felt a strange warmth. He could sense their fear, but also their courage. They were afraid not for themselves, but for him. That thought made him cling to the elder's robe, trusting the strangers more than the shadows of the raiders. One raider pushed forward and shoved a Cerealan back, but another Cerealan stepped in front of the child again. The elder spoke in a clear voice, loud enough for the raiders to hear. "This child will not be yours. We will not let you pass." The raiders grew angry, but their hesitation gave time for something else to happen. Overhead, the security alarm began to echo. A patrol ship had noticed strange movements in the port, and among the approaching signals was one carrying the banner of Earth. The Cerealans stood their ground until a bright beam of light broke through the port's ceiling window. A human rescue team rushed in, weapons drawn, their voices strong. The raiders cursed, retreating quickly into the dark tunnels, not wanting to face an armed human squad. As the danger faded, Ethan's parents came running. They embraced their child, tears in their eyes, their fear finally melting into relief. But Ethan pointed at the Cerealans. "They protected me," he said with a shaky voice. The human commander looked at the small group of fragile beings who had risked themselves for a child they did not know. He bowed his head slightly in respect. "Your courage will not be forgotten." For the Cerealans, it was simply their way. They believed every life deserved protection, no matter the cost. For Ethan's family, and soon for all of Earth, it was something far greater. A sign that even the smallest and weakest could carry the greatest bravery. What had begun as a lost child's mistake would soon echo across the stars. Humanity had witnessed an act of pure courage. And in that moment, the Cerealans, once unseen and overlooked, had written themselves into the heart of humankind's future. This was only the beginning. The galaxy did not remain silent after the Cerealans' act of bravery. News of the incident had spread to places far beyond Earth, reaching even the dark corners where raiders and warlords planned their next moves. Among them were the same raiders who had tried to seize the human child. Their pride was wounded, to be stopped, not by humans or soldiers, but by fragile Cerealans. This was an insult they could not ignore. In their hidden base, The raider leader struck the table with his clawed hand. "We will not allow this shame to stain us. The Cerealans dared to defy us. We will remind the galaxy of their weakness." His followers shouted in agreement. Plans were made. The Cerealans would be punished, their villages burned, their worlds raided. The Cerealans themselves felt the weight of this threat. On their quiet planet of Sorella, the elders gathered under the glowing trees that lit their night skies. Their faces were calm, but their voices carried fear. "We cannot stand against them," one elder said. "Our ways are not of war. If they come, we will fall." The elder who had stood before Ethan, Elder Callan, spoke softly but firmly. "Yes, we may fall, but we must remain true to who we are. To protect life is our way. If we turn from it now, then what are we?" But though his words brought courage, the Cerealans knew courage alone could not stop fleets of warships. Their prayers were quiet, but their hope was clear. Perhaps the humans would not forget them, and humanity had not forgotten. In the great halls of the United Earth Council, the debate had grown louder. Some feared war. "If we protect the Cerealans, we risk open conflict with raiders and their allies," warned Admiral Corrin, his voice heavy with concern. "Our fleets are strong, but not endless," others answered with equal strength. "If we abandon those who stood for one of our children, then what do we say about ourselves?" asked Ambassador Mei Lin. "Are we a people who remember loyalty or a people who close our eyes when it is hard?" The words of Ethan, the child who had been saved, still echoed in the minds of many leaders. They chose me before themselves. While the council argued, Earth's fleets began to move quietly. Patrol ships increased near Cerealan space. Human envoys visited Cerealan villages bringing medicine, technology, and comfort. To the Cerealans, these visits were more than help. They were a sign that they were not forgotten. But the raiders also moved. Their ships gathered in hidden places, waiting for the moment to strike. Rumors spread through the galaxy. Soon there would be battle. Neutral species watched carefully. Some whispered, "If humans defend the Cerealans, they will prove they protect more than just themselves." Others muttered, "This is foolish. The Cerealans offer nothing in return. Why would humans risk their lives for them?" Among the Cerealans, the people prepared in their own way. They built no weapons, but they built shelters. They trained children to hide quickly. They prayed under the glowing forest for peace, yet their hearts prepared for danger. Elder Callan told them, "If we must face them, we will face them as we always have, standing for life, not against it." In the meantime, Ethan and his family visited Sorella as honored guests. The child ran through the glowing forests, laughing with Cerealan children. He no longer saw them as strangers but as friends. His parents, speaking with the elders, promised, "Earth has not forgotten. We will speak for you." The bond between the two peoples grew stronger each day. Humans admired the Cerealans' wisdom and art. Cerealans admired the humans' bravery and determination. It was a friendship born not from trade or power, but from a single act of selfless courage. Yet danger drew closer. One night, human scouts detected raider ships moving toward Cerealan borders. A warning was sent to Earth, and alarms echoed in human command centers. If Earth did not act, the Cerealans would soon face destruction. On Earth, the council met again. The chamber was filled with tension. "If we stand with the Cerealans, we may start a war," Admiral Corrin repeated. "But if we do not stand with them," Ambassador Mei Lin replied, "then we abandon what makes us who we are. We abandon a promise made not with words, but with action." The decision was near, but not yet spoken. Outside the chamber, people across Earth held marches and vigils. They carried signs with simple words, "Protect the Cerealans." For once, billions of voices spoke together, not for war, not for conquest, but for a fragile people who had risked everything for a child. On Sorella, Elder Callan looked up at the night sky. He could not see the human fleets beyond the stars, but he felt hope. "They will come," he whispered to the young ones gathered around him. "I believe the humans will come." And so the stage was set. The raiders were ready to strike. The Cerealans were ready to stand in their own way. Humanity stood at a crossroads, about to decide if they would make a declaration that could change the balance of the galaxy forever. The choice was heavy, the risk great. But the memory of one small child and the shield of Cerealans who stood before him gave humanity strength. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for Earth's answer. The galactic Council chamber was vast and glittering, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Each one had come to watch Earth's decision regarding the Cerealans. Some were curious, others suspicious, and a few openly mocked the idea that humans would risk themselves for a small, peaceful species. Ethan, now a little older, sat quietly with his parents and the human ambassador. His small hands rested on the table in front of him, and his eyes never left the Cerealans, who had traveled to the council with the utmost care. They moved slowly, each step a reminder of their fragility. Yet there was courage in their glowing eyes. They had come knowing that their lives might be threatened. The council session began with formalities. Representatives from powerful species spoke first. Many argued against humans protecting the Cerealans, claiming it would provoke war with the raiders and their allies. One speaker, a tall armored species called the Varkal, said, "Humans are foolish. They should leave this insignificant species to defend themselves. Intervention will bring disaster." Another, smaller species called the Kalari whispered to their neighbor, "Why risk your fleets for such a tiny people? They can offer nothing in return." The human ambassador, Ambassador Mei Lin, rose to speak. Her voice was calm but firm, echoing through the chamber. "We are here to decide not only what is fair but what is right. There is a child, Ethan, who was saved by beings who had no strength, no weapons, and no reason to fight for him. Yet they stood. They placed themselves between danger and innocence. And that act of courage will define how humanity responds." She paused, letting her words sink in. Then she spoke louder, addressing the entire council. "The Cerealans are a peaceful species. They do not seek conquest. They cannot fight our enemies. But they did what all honorable beings should. They protected life when it was in danger. They acted when others could not. And now, we must act for them." Ethan's small voice suddenly broke the silence. "They chose me before themselves. They were afraid, but they still stood. I want everyone to know they are heroes." The chamber went quiet. Many representatives exchanged looks, some shocked that a child could speak so boldly before the galaxy's leaders. Others nodded silently, realizing that this simple truth carried more weight than complex arguments or threats. Ambassador Mei Lin continued, "Humans will not allow the Cerealans to be destroyed. From this moment, any attack on the Cerealans will be treated as an attack on humanity itself. We will protect them, not for power, not for gain, but because their courage demands it. We will defend them because that is who we are." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species whispered anxiously. The raiders, represented here through envoys, scowled and hissed at the declaration. Yet they knew this was not empty words. Humans had already positioned fleets near Cerealan space, and Earth's commitment was clear. The Cerealans, though unarmed and fragile, seemed to glow brighter as the declaration was spoken. Elder Kalen bowed his head to the humans. "We do not seek protection. We only seek to live as we have always lived. But your courage honors us. We are grateful." The room remained tense. One by one, other species began to speak. Some questioned the wisdom of challenging the raiders. Others admitted admiration for the humans' commitment to life and justice. Slowly, the tone of the chamber shifted. What had begun as a debate became a recognition of humanity's principles: bravery, loyalty, and the protection of the innocent. Outside the council, news of the declaration spread across the galaxy. Broadcasts reached every inhabited world. The story of the Cerealans' courage and humanity's promise inspired beings everywhere. Children on distant planets learned about the Cerealans and Ethan. Artists painted murals of the glowing defenders standing firm. Writers told stories of how courage could come from the smallest of beings, and how the greatest civilizations protect those who cannot defend themselves. Back on Sorella, the Cerealans gathered in their central square. They had never imagined being recognized by such a vast and powerful species. Yet now, thanks to humanity, they were no longer invisible. They could live without constant fear. Their villages could thrive. Their children could play safely beneath the glowing trees they loved. Ethan ran through the square, hand in hand with human visitors and Cerealan children. "We are safe now," he said, laughing. "They promised to protect you, and I know they will keep that promise." Elder Callan placed a gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder. "It is not only humans who keep their promises," he said softly. "It is the courage of those who act without fear, and the hearts of those who believe in justice. You remind us of that." As night fell over Sorella, the twin moons glowed in the sky. Ships from Earth hovered above, a silent but steadfast protection. The galaxy had watched, and it had learned something new. Courage, honor, and the defense of the innocent are stronger than fleets, armies, or threats. And in that quiet, shining moment, one simple truth became clear. To defend life is the highest law, and to act with courage, no matter the odds, earns a place in history that no force can erase. For the Cerealans, for Ethan, and for humanity, the galaxy would never forget. The stage was now set for the future, a future in which courage and honor would guide not only humans, but all who chose to stand for what is right. Years passed since the day the Cerealans stood to protect Ethan. What had begun as a single act of courage had grown into a bond that changed both humans and Cerealans forever. On Sorella, the once fragile villages were now alive with activity. Humans and Cerealans worked side by side, sharing knowledge, ideas, and friendship. Ethan, now older and taller, walked through the glowing streets of Cereala's central city. Children played beneath the luminous trees, their laughter filling the air. Cerealan children ran alongside human children, learning each other's games and languages. Where once fear had ruled, now trust and joy flourished. Elder Callan stood at the edge of the square watching the scene. His body glowed softly, a sign of age and wisdom in Cerealan culture. He had lived long enough to see many changes, but nothing had been as meaningful as this moment. Humans had not only kept their promise, they had become true friends, defenders, and teachers. A fleet of human ships hovered gently above Sorella, not as a threat, but as guardians. Humans had stationed patrols across Cerealan space to ensure the raiders and other hostile species could not harm them. These patrols were a quiet reminder to the galaxy. Humanity honored its word. Ethan approached Elder Callan holding a small gift, a carved wooden toy shaped like a Cerealan bird. "I made this for you," he said, "to show that I will never forget what you did for me." The elder accepted the gift with a gentle smile. "And we will never forget what humanity has done for us. Your courage and loyalty are rare in any species." Word of the alliance spread beyond Sorella and Earth. Other planets began to see the value in friendship and trust rather than conquest and power. Some civilizations who had been suspicious of humans now admired them. Humans were no longer seen as reckless or only strong. They were wise, honorable, and willing to protect those who could not protect themselves. On Sorella, scientists and engineers worked together. Cerealans shared their knowledge of sustainable energy and healing technologies. Humans shared advances in transportation and communication. Together, they built schools, hospitals, and research centers. Every new achievement was a sign that cooperation could create wonders beyond imagination. The raiders, once feared, had been deterred. They had tested the humans and the Cerealans and found that the galaxy had changed. Even their threats were no longer enough to shake the bond between these two species. Slowly, they withdrew to the outer edges of the system, realizing that strength alone did not win battles. Unity and courage did. Ethan often walked among both human and Cerealan children, teaching them games, sharing stories, and learning from their wisdom. One day, he stopped to look at the stars. "All of this started because you all protected me," he said to a group of young Cerealans. "It shows that one act of courage can change everything." A Cerealan child smiled. "And your people kept their promise. That is courage too." Elder Callan watched them, feeling a deep pride. "Yes," he said softly. "Courage is not just in those who stand first, but also in those who keep faith and honor. That is what humanity has shown us." In the years that followed, humanity and Cerealans became known as allies of peace. They worked together in trade, exploration, and diplomacy. They helped other small or vulnerable species, showing that true, Power came not from weapons, but from unity, honor, and the courage to defend what is right. Back on Earth, children studied the story of Ethan and the Cerealans. They were taught that bravery was not only in battles, but in standing up for what is right, no matter the size or strength of the defender. Artists painted murals of glowing Cerealans and the child they had saved. Writers told stories of how compassion and courage could unite worlds. On Sorella, Elder Kalen often visited the spot where they had first defended Ethan. He looked at the open space, remembering the fear, the trembling, and the bravery of that day. It began with one act, he whispered, and it grew into a future where all life is honored. Ethan, now a young adult, stood beside him. It shows that the smallest choices can change the galaxy, he said. Your people protected me and humanity protected you. That made all the difference. The twin moons of Sorella rose into the sky, casting silver light over the city. Ships from Earth glimmered above, quiet but vigilant. Children played, scientists worked, and elders watched with pride. Life had been preserved, courage had been honored, and a bond had been formed that would last for generations. And as the stars sparkled far beyond the planet, one truth shone brighter than any fleet or weapon. The courage to protect the innocent, no matter the risk, creates a legacy stronger than fear, stronger than war, and stronger than time itself. Humanity and the Cerealans had proven it. One simple act of bravery, a small, fragile species defending a human child, had changed the galaxy forever. Peace, trust, and courage had won. And the story of that day would be remembered by all who value life and honor above all. The end. News of the incident on Leora Prime spread faster than anyone expected. At first, it was only a simple report sent by the human rescue team. Child saved. Alien species called Cerealans defended him until help arrived. But when Ethan's parents shared the story with officials, and when security footage leaked across the networks, it became a wave of attention. Everywhere people looked, they saw the image of the Cerealans standing in front of the frightened child. Their small glowing figures, their trembling arms raised in defiance, and their refusal to move even when danger was close. It touched something deep in the hearts of billions. On Earth, the story became the headline on every screen. News channels replayed the scene again and again. Commentators spoke with passion. This is courage in its purest form. They had no weapons. They had no hope of winning. Yet they stood to protect a human child. In schools, children began drawing pictures of the Cerealans, their glowing bodies standing tall like heroes. Artists painted murals of the moment. Writers began calling it the Shield of Leora. Ethan's simple words, "They protected me," were repeated like a symbol of trust and friendship. But outside the emotional response, serious discussions began. The United Earth Council, meeting in Geneva, received reports from scientists and diplomats about the Cerealans. They were a peaceful race living on a small cluster of worlds. Their technology was advanced in areas like agriculture and healing, but they had no fleets, no armies, and no strong defenses. Dr. Amina Rowe, a xenobiologist, explained to the council, "The Cerealans value life above all things. To them, protecting life is not just an act of kindness, it is their deepest law. Even when threatened, they will place themselves between danger and the innocent." A military officer frowned. "Which makes them vulnerable. Any aggressive species could wipe them out in weeks." Another council member leaned forward. "Or which makes them the kind of people we should protect. If they were willing to stand for one of our children, how can we not stand for them?" The debate grew across Earth. Some argued that humanity had enough responsibilities already. Defending new allies would risk drawing more enemies. But others spoke with fire in their voices. "This is exactly what makes us human," said one ambassador. "We remember those who defend us, no matter their size or strength." Meanwhile, the Cerealans themselves did not seek fame. On their homeworld of Sorella, they lived in harmony with their forests and oceans. They did not broadcast their bravery. They did not demand reward. They simply continued their way of life, quiet and gentle, but they were not free from fear. Word reached them that the raiders, the same ones who had tried to take Ethan, were planning revenge. To be humiliated by Cerealans, the so-called fragile ones, was an insult they would not forget. In their council chambers, the Cerealan elders discussed the danger. "We cannot fight them," one whispered. "We cannot run forever either." The elder who had protected Ethan spoke with calm strength. "We acted as we always do. We cannot undo it. If the raiders come, then we will stand again. That is who we are. But in the galaxy beyond, something new was happening. Human fleets began quietly moving closer to Cerulean space. Not to conquer, not to control, but to watch and to guard. On several stations, banners appeared showing both the Earth insignia and the glowing emblem of Cerella side by side. Other species across the galaxy noticed. Some were puzzled. Why would humans risk themselves for such a weak people? Others whispered in fear. If humans were willing to protect the smallest species, then who would they not protect? Back on Earth, Ethan was invited to speak before the United Council. He was still only a child, his voice soft, but his words carried weight. Standing beside his parents, he looked up at the leaders of humanity and said, "I was afraid, but they were more afraid. They were shaking. Still, they stood in front of me. They chose me before themselves." The chamber grew silent. Leaders who had argued against helping the Ceruleans found their voices fading. It is one thing to hear a report. It is another to hear the truth from the child who lived it. After the meeting, whispers spread through the halls. Perhaps this is not just about one species. Perhaps this is about who we want to be. In the following weeks, the idea grew stronger. Writers compared the Ceruleans to ancient human heroes who fought with no hope but still chose to stand. Teachers began telling their students, strength is not only in muscles. Strength is in heart. The galaxy had long judged humanity as bold, sometimes reckless, sometimes harsh. But now, humanity faced a choice that would define them. Would they step forward and protect a people who had already proven their courage? Or would they turn away, leaving the Ceruleans to face their enemies alone? The answer was not yet spoken. But the seed had been planted. Earth was listening. The Ceruleans had shown their values. And now the question rose like a call across the stars. Would humanity answer? This was the quiet moment before greater storms, before declarations and battles, before destiny itself. The Ceruleans had defended a human child. Now the eyes of all worlds waited to see what humans would do in return.